Hey guys, so welcome to the show. And it's been a while since I've done one of these again, where it's a fan Q&A session with you guys, and you guys get to ask me any questions that you want on today's show. And it's something that is unique to our channel, something that we do. And it's your opportunity to ask me anything that you want, and I'll answer those questions. But before we get going today, before we get started, there's a couple of things I'd love you guys to please do, and that's plus subscribe to the channel, click that notification bell for all future videos. Don't forget to smash the like button, comment, and share. Download the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics magazine monthly. Every issue is 100% free, straight to your inbox every month. The link is on the screen as well as in the description. Also, want you guys to please join our Patreon account. It's what's keeping us alive, guys. It's what's keeping us going as well. Is our Patreon account. So the link is on the screen as well as in the description. Smash that like button and also go to cricketfanaticsmag.com for all your regular updates. So, without further ado, guys, let's get straight into today's episode. Looking forward to seeing what you guys would like to ask me in the live chat today. Let's get straight into today's video. A very good evening and welcome to Cricket Fanatics magazine. This is your daily show, your Q&A session. I'm your host Khalid Moeddin, and this is the show where I get to answer your questions. But before we get going with the questions that you guys have for me today, I just want to make a quick announcement based on what has happened today with regards to the news. Now, there is something that we can talk about when it comes to updating you on the news, and that is Shabnam Ismail has retired from international cricket. Um, the 34-year-old has called a time on her career after 241 international ODIs and T20Is and Test match for South Africa, taking 317 wickets as she established herself as one of the best bowlers in the women's game. Ishmael's last appearance in the green and gold was in South Africa's historic ICC Women's T20 World Cup final against the eventual champions Australia on home soil February last year. Her statement is as follows. Dear cricket family, after 16 years proudly representing my country, I have come to the difficult decision to retire from international cricket and move to the next chapter of my life. As any athlete knows, training and competing at your best requires much sacrifice and dedication. And I now find myself wanting to spend more time with family, particularly my siblings and parents as they get older. They have always been my biggest support, and I want to be able to be there for them in any way they have been there for me for the 16 years. I really believe that reducing the amount of cricket I will play will enable me to do this, and playing in the global leagues is the only way I see to be able to fit in both family and cricket. As I look back on my international career, I'm so grateful for all the opportunities and experiences I've had. I've loved being able to compete at the highest level, and I'm so proud of being able to be part of a wonderful group of players who have led the way for women in cricket. The memories I have will stay with me forever. I want to thank Cricket South Africa, my teammates, coaches, and medical support staff for all the input and support over the years. What a journey it has been, and one of the that would not have been as meaningful if you had not been a part of it. To the fans, thank you for the unwavering support and encouragement. Your messages and cheers have lifted me and kept me going when times were tough. I truly appreciate every single one of you. As I step into this new stage of my life, I'm excited to explore new opportunities and spend more time with those I love. However, cricket will always hold a special place in my heart, and I will continue to be a proud ambassador for the news for sport in South Africa. I look forward to continuing to perform at the highest level over the next few years across various T20 competitions across the globe. Thank you for everything, Ishmael concluded. So, yeah, that's a little bit That was what Ishmael had to say. I mean, it is a massive loss for South African cricket. I think. I think she's been a brilliant player for South Africa, and it's always been someone that has given her absolute all to the game and absolute all for that badge on her shirt. You could see the emotions in her eyes. You could see the emotions in her whole in her whole being when they lost the World Cup and lost the semi-final, and obviously when they won the semi-final to get into that final, you could see how much it meant to her. So thanks a lot, Shamini Ismail, for being such an inspiration to so many future Proteas women players and being such an amazing advocate of the game. We will miss you. Definitely will miss you. Okay, guys. Let me see what you guys have to ask on today's show. Ahmed Sham says, "I wonder why Yanaman is not picked after averaging over 45 in ODIs. Without he was dropped without a good run." Okay, there's a couple of things that goes into Yanaman's, you could say, dropping or not non-selection. About I think it was about 2 years ago, or when he made the move to Boland, Yaneman made the decision to change his position when it comes to um, cricket, when it comes to the 4 day game. Aditya is joining me today as well, so I'm excited to see him back with me on the daily show because we haven't had the opportunity to actually have a daily show together in a Q&A session in a very long time. Welcome, Aditya. I'm just starting off with this question about Yanaman. And I just want to give people a quick background into what happened with Yanaman. So, a couple of years ago, he decided, particularly in 4 day cricket, to change his position. He changed his position to number four, and it changed the way he approached the game as well, completely. Now, I know that he's been great in 1 day cricket for South Africa when he did get the opportunity. But what I've noticed about Yaneman, and it's carried over into domestic cricket, it's he hasn't necessarily evolved or improved with regards to the way he's approached the game. Now he's found ways to, for example, he has some issues, and swing and spin is one of those issues. And I thought that he's found a way to, I've always said, survive against spin rather than dominate spin, and it's been a part, and it's been hasn't been the best of seasons for him in for at Poland. He hasn't really played well for Poland. He hasn't really played well for SA in the SA20. So even in Joburg Super Kings dropped him when he had the opportunity to obviously show his talent there, and he hasn't necessarily been at his best. And I think that when the new regime came in, a lot of the players that they picked was not only about reputation, was also about picking on um, form, which is something that he's lacked over the last seasons when he was at Poland. So that's the reason why I think he has been dropped. Aditya, do you have any other insight or thoughts on why that is the case?
Yeah, look, I think there's a bit of a logjam in that batting order, right? Because you know, sentiment often is that if someone is not doing well, move them up to the top of the order. And if there's a top order batter, you can't really move him down the order, right? Aiden Markram is probably an exception to that rule, because but I think he's also given a lot of opportunities because somewhere I think all of us felt like he's an extremely talented individual. With Yaneman, I think his work against spin, I'm sure it'll improve over time as well. But yeah, I can sort of understand that because you don't want every batter will have like strengths and weaknesses, and that also changes over a period of time. But with Yaneman, I guess spin play does need to improve. A very good example, and I hope he can take a leaf or two out of his book, is Faf du Plessis, because
Mm,
if you compare Faf's strike rates against spin between 2017 and 2021, he was going at a little more than a run a ball. Today, his strike rate against spin has increased to 140,
mm,
and we can get into the nitty gritties of off spin and leg spin and situational um, situational adjustments and things like that. But Mike Hessen, the director of cricket at RCB, just mentioned the other day that at the end of last season, they sat down with FAF and they said that, if there are two areas that we think that you can improve, one is against left arm pace and the other is against spin, where you can potentially improve your strike rate. And he went back, he worked on it, and over the CPL and the Big Bash and the A20, and now the IPL, the results are there for everyone to see.
Yeah, and I think form played a lot of part in Yanaman. I mean, if he had a great season at Boland, two great seasons at Boland, striking at an average of 50, 40, whatever the case may be, I think there would have been definitely been an opportunity for him to get selected in these sides. But he hasn't been in the best of form, and it's just it's plain and simple to see with regards to that. Navneet says, Khalid, bro, do you think SA have the squad to win the World Cup in 2023? So, me personally, I think that our team is still in development. I do not think necessarily that this team is packed with winners. What do I mean by this? What I mean by this is that when you look at the 2023 World Cup side and you try to select the team and you try to select the 11, it's not necessarily a group of a whole lot of guys that have won plenty of domestic trophies all put together. I mean, you can maybe have a look. I mean, even one of the guys that has been winning recently doesn't even make the side in Riza Hendricks, someone that has been pivotal for the Lions in domestic form. So I do think that this team is still trying to find itself into trying to find that winning combination. But I think that like I mean I can maybe agree with what Shukri said. We might fluke one or two trophies on the way to the 2027 World Cup. But I mean 2023 for me is a play is a World Cup where I want to see progress from what we saw the last World Cup. It was a complete abomination, I would say, when it comes to the last World Cup. 2019 was terrible. I mean, we went into that tournament, we lost the first three games. I think we were the in the first team in the tournament to lose the first three games and also to play those many games in the first week and then lose all three. It was a terrible tournament. It's a World Cup that I don't want to remember because a lot of things happened to me personally as well from with regards to going to this World Cup. It actually changed my whole career path. And it actually was the reason for why I started Cricket Fanatics magazine in the first place. Was that World Cup? So that World Cup haunts me forever, and it will forever haunt me from being a bad memory for me. Um, South Africa needs to, and we can't cross formats because it's because I feel that T20 takes a different skill set, a different mentality. You need a different type of way of style of play and approach. We also have a different unit of players that are actually involved in the T20 team compared to the ODI team. I mean, Rassie van der Dussen, for example, plays a much bigger role in the ODIs than he does in the T20 arena. I think that guys like Heinrich Klaassen have really truly shown their colors. When it comes to our bowlers as well, the ones that dominate in one day cricket compared to the ones that will dominate in T20s are slightly different. Although I do think we have the bowlers to be able to win the World Cup, I do have some question marks over the batting for us to win the 2023 World Cup. But that's just me being a cynic over here and actually trying to be like, I'm a little cautious than to put my heart on my sleeve again and then get disappointed. And also, when I look around the world and I look at the competition that we have to be up against, first and foremost, it is India in their home conditions. It's not very difficult to get past them. Pakistan always steps up, also in conditions that will probably also be quite familiar to them. I think Sri Lanka has an opportunity to really show in those conditions. Australia is always a team that you need to be wary of when it comes to World Cups. They always seem to find a way to make it to the knockout stages or win the tournament. England has revolutionized the ODI game in the world, and obviously they the defending champions. So, and the West Indies have really become another force to be reckoned with when it comes to white ball cricket, especially with these new guys coming into the team. And the way those guys are playing in the IPL right now makes me think that those conditions aren't going to bother them either. So there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of. It's going to be very difficult to win one like this. So for me, I don't think we necessarily do have the squad to win it. But I would at least want us to make the knockout stages. Aditya, where do you put South Africa in this hunt for the 2023 trophy?
I mean, they can be there and thereabouts, but they have to be mentally strong, you know. We always talk about this baggage from 4 years ago and 8 years ago and since 1992 really. But yeah, I do think that the challenge is not always with the skill. It's when the game is on the line, can you pull the game in your advantage? That is the real question. Um, so to me, I think that's where the challenge is. Also in ICC tournaments, it's typically the ICC that is in charge of preparing wickets. So I'm not sure that it's always going to be, 350 plays 350, or at the other end of the spectrum, it's going to be very spinner friendly. I think there will be an effort to create some sort of balance. And also we need to remember that this tournament is going to be played in October, November, and the conditions in October, November are very different from what they're right now. Um, so yeah, I think all of these factors are there. The South Africa have the firepower to win the World Cup. I believe they do, and they don't need to play like England to win the World Cup. But I do think that the tournament will be won by teams where, when the game is on the line, they're able to make a play for the team and win it.
Mhm. Ahmad says, also, why is Hashim Amla and Vernon Philander are not involved in the Proteas batting and coaching roles? I'm not sure if they applied for the role. To be honest, I'm not actually sure. I mean, we're gonna have to ask maybe someone like Shukri and Enoch maybe on why they haven't maybe been in the reckoning for that. I mean, Vernon did have an opportunity to be our overseas bowling coach. Didn't really go the way he thought it would. He left the job quite quickly. He hasn't really coached in domestic cricket when it comes to taking a bowling position. He's assisted here and there with Western Province and certain teams, but he's never actually taken on a role of a full time coach when it comes to the domestic department. Hashim Amla's starting, but I mean he's still playing, I think, as well. I think in England, I think he still plays a bit, or I'm sure I've seen his name in a couple of teams.
I think he
Um,
retired from
but
Surrey.
yeah, but he retired from yeah, he did retire recently as well. Yeah, sorry, but I mean he's starting to coach. He was a part of the SA20 coaching staff for
MI Cape
the
Town.
Cape Town. So, and he's been involved in before. He's been involved as well with the Blitz when he was part of that team as well, helping to coach as well. I remember back in MSL while he was still playing. So I think it's maybe more to do with amount of experience. Maybe perhaps if I'm going to speculate over here, it will probably be because of the amount of experience maybe they have as coaches. I'm not also sure what level of coaching they have, if they've done their levels either. But for us to get a true answer, we're gonna obviously have to ask the TOC and the coaches
Yeah.
what why they haven't looked at that.
So Hash was also in Mumbai recently,
Mm,
to cheer on the Mumbai Indians. And if I'm not mistaken, a couple of months ago, much before the IPL started, there was the Mumbai Indians had held a like a training workshop of sorts for everyone involved in their coaching staff across the various teams that they own,
mhm.
and they're all come to Mumbai. So I think Boucher was here, Amla was here, Pollard was here, the coaching staff of the ILT20 was here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean that gives you a good indication of that.
Yeah, and
Um,
also franchise. Sorry, like the franchise. Oftentimes you think that um, they play for 2 months a year, or a month every year, but actually their jobs are 365 days of the year. It's not like they're not working for the franchise once the tournament is over.
yeah, that's 100% true. When I've spoken to the, I mean, when I've when we spoke to Imran Manak, for example, he was already at the camp now in the off season, working with his coaches, working with some players. So, I mean, they are there. It's a full time job and a full time gig. I mean, in Bangladesh and India, the do what do the pace what in Bangladesh and India the do paisa hunt programs anything similar in SA?
I think he's talking
Maybe
about
a left
scouting
arm
program
Black
for
African
fast
campaign.
bowlers.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean. Um, we don't necessarily have something like that. I think in South Africa, what we have CSA scouts that go around the country and go and look at certain players, looking at specific things. Now, Vinnie Barnes recently retired, who was a big part of scouting fast bowlers, all players, but fast bowlers particularly was his skill. Um, he would often go to all the Cubs weeks, the Coke weeks and stuff, and go and look at some of the bowlers that were coming out through the system. Like I mean, we haven't necessarily had a problem when it comes to producing bowlers and fast bowlers in the country. I mean, there's a young Mapaka now coming through the system as well, who has a lot of a very big star or a very big anticipation towards about him, and there's a lot of talk around him and buzz around him. Um, I mean, we've had on Anik Nokia, Gerald Coetzee, all of these guys come through the system now. We haven't really struggled with fast bowlers when it comes to that. I mean, generally speaking, coaches kind of from the domestic teams kind of do the scouting for us in a way because they're in need of top class fast bowlers to become good to be competitive in South African cricket in the domestic scene. So we don't necessarily. I don't think we do have something like that. A particular program trying to find specific players. What I do think we need more is someone to find us more Black African batters. To be honest, that's where we're really struggling in South Africa. Is we? I mean, we've only had one Protea Test Black African batter really. Besides, okay, maybe two now. You could maybe throw Kaya Zondo into the mix as well. Even though he didn't play many matches, but he's played some matches internationally, so you can maybe throw him into the mix as well. But we top order batters, Black African. I think we need a scouting system for that because I don't think that's been doing really well. Um, I don't know if you can maybe talk a little bit more on this, Aditya. Maybe do you have the programs like this in India, for example?
Yeah, so I think scouting programs are fairly common, but if in South Africa, if you read the piece on the interview with Richard Pybus, which you put out earlier today, it outlines it outlines the story of how Dale Steyn was found, and that was pure luck because um, when Dale Steyn made his mark at the Titans, he was asked, if anyone from Cricket South Africa had met him or talked to him, and he said no. So how he made it that day was how he made it to the Titans camp back in 2003, I think, was pure luck, and it's there in the story. It's there in the interview with Pybus, so definitely give it a read. But I think in with the IPL now, a lot of the scouting happening in India is global. It's not just about Indian players and so on, but it's also about like Marco Jansen, for example. Before he was picked in the IPL, long before he was picked for South Africa, he was being tracked by the Mumbai Indians for at least 3 years. So they knew of him. And similarly, look at the number of Afghans now that are playing in the IPL. There's Rashid Khan, obviously everyone knows him now, but there's Nabeenul Haq, um, there's Gurbaz, who's the batter that plays for, there's Noor Ahmed, spinner for Gujarat. Um, so yeah, there's Ramanullah Gurbaz who plays for KKR. That so I think our scouting infrastructure is certainly improving, and I think that's where the change will come. um,
Yeah.
I think national boards are ultimately going to have to take the best practices of franchises to figure out where the best talent is.
hmm And on domestic teams, I mean, South Africa, for example, we do have guys that scout, I mean, I know personally about Graham October, who goes around the country to go look for new talent to try and recruit them to Western Province or try to recruit them to S under 19s, etc. So the scouting system is working in South Africa. But I think that what we do need to do is to try and find, like, I think the where we lack the most is probably colored top order batters and colored um, and players of color in general. I think that's where we're lacking to find that talent. I mean, there's an interview on this channel in our lockdown session. Now, guys, I know that the title of those interviews are all on lockdown, but we only talk about the lockdown in COVID for the first like 10 minutes or so, or 5 minutes of the show, actually less than that. So the rest of it is all about the player and their history and how they came into the game and how they think about the game. So go back to those interviews and go and watch it because it's really worth your time. I took a lot of time and effort to interview a whole lot of cricketers and managers, etc., when it comes to this game. So or coaches. So please go and look at that because there's one with Anik Nokia. I put a snippet out of it from it on Instagram and on Facebook and on TikTok today, where he speaks about how he improved his fast bowling, and there was a little bit of a how he took his fast bowling to the next level. He also tells us about his journey in the full interview, where he also speaks about how he was found and scouted because it was also by chance in a way. But yeah, it gives you some nice insight into South Africa and how we think about players. So go and look at that as well as the Richard Pybus interview that's on cricketfanaticsmag.com.
I think one of the challenges with scouting is that in South Africa they need better infrastructure to pick talent from from the townships. So for example, in Johannesburg, I don't know if there's a way to find if there's a way to get cricketers from Alexandra or Westbury. In Cape Town, I don't know if there's a concerted effort to find talent in Philippi. Um, like Makai Antini, for example, he was found. His talent was discovered. He's from a township in George, I believe. So his I don't know what infrastructure was available at the time when he was in
Mm,
George.
yeah.
Yeah.
Khalid, do you think when SA win, credit goes to captain and team, and then when SA loses, everyone blames on Boucher? I don't think that that's necessarily the case, and it hasn't been the case on South Africa. I mean, on Cricket Fanatics magazine, I've tried to be as fair as possible when it comes to my criticism. When we criticize players, I go all in, and when we praise them, I go as well. I give them full praise. I think it's a combination because cricket is not only a team sport; it's also an individual sport. There's certain ways that you can blame the coach. When I blamed Boucher, it's not because of talent and the lack of talent that South Africa wasn't winning games. I felt that the environment wasn't necessarily an environment conducive for a winning team. It wasn't necessarily a nurturing environment. From what I've heard, it wasn't necessarily a nurturing environment where players were feeling in a good space where they could be free and themselves. Uh, every player that I've interviewed and spoken about them, a lot of them have spoken about the current situation and how they feel they can be themselves, how they feel that Shukri backs them 100%, how they feels about how he speaks to them. There's a difference in the communication, particularly amongst players, the staff within the current setup. Now we obviously have to wait and see. When we beat the West Indies, I don't think that on this channel particularly anybody that came on the show actually just went full praise for Shukri Conrad. There was praise for Temba Bavuma as well as a skipper. But there wasn't only praise for him as a skipper. There was a praise for the players that did well, like Aiden Markram, like Kaiji Rabada, like Andy Nokia. So there's players that, or Gerald Kutsia, more sorry, like Anik was injured, but Gerald Kutsia as well, giving him praise. So there's been there's been a balance, particularly on Cricket Fanatics magazine. I think when I look on social media, people have agendas. Generally speaking, it's about wanting people to agree with your opinion. So people will stay true to their arguments, and they'll take it to the grave ultimately until they win the argument. So I think people have agendas when it comes to social media and voicing their opinions. They select what they want to say and what they don't want to say. And particularly on Twitter, you only have a couple of characters, so you can't really go through the whole team and put them all there in a tweet to say, "Oh, thank you for helping us win it in a game." But I think on Click Fanatics, at least, we've been quite balanced with regards to that. But At the moment, I think. I mean, people, by the way, were very critical of Aiden Markram's, despite winning games as a captain. So even though he was a captain, he was quite criticized as well. Apart from that, anyway, Dicha, what do you think of this one?
Look, honestly, I think it's time to move on from the Boucher era and everything that happened at the time. Um, sure, we can take a few lessons from it, uh, but look, I think there's a new coach now, and I don't think it should have the baggage of the previous environment. We're not suggesting that it was terrible or anything of the sort with any sort of confirmation. But I do think that it's time to move on and give the new coach and the new setup a fresh slate, because I think the more that we tend to sort of compare the two managements, the two regimes, as we sort of call them. And so I think we should uh, we should let that be now. I mean, Boucher, seeing him here at the Mumbai Indians, uh, he's looking quite relaxed, I must say, smiling a lot more than I remember from the pressers that that we attended.
Yep.
And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I didn't know that he had the side to his personality. Believe me, I've seen. I was just at a meet and greet with the Mumbai Indians a couple of days ago. And Boucher wasn't there, but the team looked very relaxed, and like Rohit Sharma was there, Tilak Verma was there, Arjun Tendulkar was there, and the team seemed very relaxed. And although there is that they're fighting for that logjam in the middle with 10 points, no one's really blaming Boucher for much, and he's sitting on the dugout right now with the visual on here. Um, and he's looking quite friendly and relaxed. Like, I watched a press conference with him and Rohit Sharma. I've never seen Boucher engage in like friendly banter with the media. I've never seen that.
Never
And
either. I've never seen that.
yeah, so I mean, good for him, man. Good for him. Good for Mumbai.
Yeah. He was a
I hope this
miserable
works
with
out
South
for him.
Africa. He was miserable in every presser. He was like on the edge.
Yeah, it it feels like right now, even though Mumbai's had like a mixed season, it's not something that he seems to have. He hasn't taken it too hard on himself,
Mm.
and yeah, I've
Let's see
seen
what
Boucher
happens.
smile. His family's with him as well. So
Yeah, so he's maybe happy. Eh? Ahmed says David Beckham just returned to South Africa to try and make it as a Protea. What are his chances in the near future? Okay, so first and foremost, I have to just correct you on something. David Beckham never left South Africa. He signed a 3-year deal, yes, with what's the team's name, Durham, but he never left South Africa. He was still going to play domestic cricket in South Africa. The only reason he didn't play domestic cricket this year is because yeah, at school, DJ, if you need to, that's fine. So Aditya's going to leave us now, guys. Thanks a lot for joining us, Aditya. I'm going to continue with some questions, but we'll see you again very soon.
see you all
Um,
soon. See you soon.
See you. Thanks, bro. Okay, so when it comes to Boucher, sorry. When it comes to David never left South Africa. He was still going to play domestic cricket for South Africa for the Western Province Blitz. For the Western Province Blitz, yes, this last season. What happened was he got injured, and his whole season was thrown off guard. The problem with David was the comments that he made with regards to his intentions to play, which country he wants to play for. Now, South Africa never made a concerted effort to try and show th- um, a want for him or a need for him in the team. They never picked him for SA teams. They never picked him for emerging teams. They never picked him for a Proteas team. So there was no conversations had either. And there was miscommunication that happened between Victor Sang and obviously David Bedingham and himself. There was no conversations had. So he decided to sign a 3-year deal. And in that deal, by doing that, it was about who he qualifies to play for. Now, even though he qualifies for England, doesn't mean he's going to play for England ultimately. Recently, there's been some comments that came out about him where he said that he wants to play for South Africa. Back then, when the rumors were coming out about him, He made his intentions clear to me that it's about whoever comes to him first. He's made his intentions to qualify, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he'll make the decision to play for England. That was his stance at the time. It depends on who gives him the opportunity first, because ultimately he wants to play at the highest level, and he's getting older. So his chances to play in the near future, I think if he has a good season, this season for Western Province Blitz, because he's in the squad, of course, I think there is a massive opportunity for him to probably make a push for that position in the side, because the number 5 position in South Africa at the moment is up for grabs. I don't think it's nailed down. I think there are a couple of players all fighting for it. I think this SA tour is going to maybe also put some light onto some of the players that were maybe pushing for that position. And I think that number 5 position is still up for grabs. So I think that he does have a chance if he has a good season. Um, I'm sure that it seems to me that Shukri Conrad, as a coach for the 4-day arena at least, in the test arena at least, has given opportunities to guys that have performed. So whether they have performed, it's not like he's ignoring players that haven't performed, and we can see that with the selection for the SAA team, a team that I'm actually very happy with. I'm very happy with that particular SAA side. So, in my opinion, I think that from seeing, I can only go on what I've seen and the consistencies I've seen, and from the consistencies I've seen from Shukri, I think that he could possibly give David an opportunity if he performs in the domestic arena, because he does seem to be give or rewarding good performances in the domestic scene. Amit says your argument against including Faf in the ODI was his age, but there were on more arguments in favor. No other top order batsman has batted more than Faf in India, and he is best in playing spin. My argument wasn't his age. I think you need to go back to that clip. I said that the age was actually the last thing I said. My argument was that Faf hasn't necessarily played ODI cricket in a very long time, and ODI cricket is a lot more taxing on the body than it is with regards to T20 cricket. He's made his intentions clear that he's going to be traveling around the world and play T20 cricket. He isn't necessarily conditioned for 50 over cricket because he hasn't played it domestically either. So, in order for him to get into the ODI team, I think that he needs to play some more 50 over cricket first, make himself available for Titans and play more games, and then get selected for the 2023 World Cup. He hasn't played 50 over cricket in a very long time. For me, selecting him in the T20 World Cup team makes sense because we've got evidence to back it up. He's played T20 cricket. He's playing for Rajasthan. Rajasthan. He's playing for Royal Challengers Bangalore. He's played for JSK. He's been in the mix, and he's shown his talent in T20 cricket, and that his body can handle the pressure, that he's fit enough for that. Just because he's fit enough for T20 cricket doesn't mean he's conditioned and fit enough to play ODI cricket, in my opinion. So I do think he needs to make his intentions clear before he can get selected for the ODI or 2023 World Cup. Also, we've got Quentin de Kock in the top order. We've got Timba Bavuma. We've got Riza Hendricks. We've got Rassi van der Dussen. We've got Aiden Markram, all over there fighting for a top order place in the team. And they've done generally well. And then we also got Yanaman Malan that everybody's been crying for as well, that should be in the next in line. So it does make it tricky for you to bring a Faf into this team. I think he needs to make his intentions clear on whether he wants to play 50 over cricket or not. And at that point, we need to then decide what we're going to do. But in T20 cricket, I think there should be an opportunity for that. Also, his captaincy experience. Okay, that's still on Faf. Vernon was involved with Pakistan. I know I said that he was involved overseas, and that's the only job that he's really had as a consultant, a bowling consultant and bowling coach. What happened about more test matches? This is not going to be a short-term plan, guys. So for this year, I know you guys are asking for more test matches. For this year, I don't think there are going to be more. We're going to have the test series at the end of this year, and then Enoch is trying to work towards next season getting more test matches for us. So it's not a short-term plan; it's a long-term plan. We can't just click our fingers and then have a lot of test matches coming. It's not as easy as that. There's other issues involved with regards to getting more test matches as well. Getting nations to agree, getting the money to be able to host it, or getting money to be able to send our teams overseas to go play. There's a lot of things involved with regards to that. We need a proper all-rounder. We haven't had an all-rounder since JP Dumini, not even Pretorius. He was on and off. Could Aiden Markinen possibly be that all-rounder for us guys that play that JP Dumini role? Let me know what you think about that. Quinton de Kock and Aiden have to play consistent in a few good game innings, then fails. Um, yeah, they've been inconsistent in my opinion, but I'm hoping to see that improve. Based off the last series, Aiden Markram was really good with the bat. Why guys like Lisa Hendricks and Rassi van der Dussen are not playing in the IPL? That's what you have to ask the IPL teams why they are not. Why haven't we found good all rounder in all formats? Also, leg spinners. Leg spinners is a bit tricky. There are a couple of leg spinners floating around that could possibly get the opportunity to play. That could possibly get opportunities this time around to play. But there's nobody that's really stood out and jumped out when it comes to that. The top spinners have been mainly left arm spinners or off spinners. So it is something that we need to improve. With regards to all rounders, there are plenty in the domestic setup, but there's none that have been regularly consistent. So I'm hoping that a lot of them will show their class now this next domestic season. I mean, there are quite a few great all rounders that I've seen domestically that have the opportunity to put up their hand this season. They're young as well. So we'll have to wait and see what happens this next season. I mean, it's off season right now. It's no point in complaining right now because the new season has to start before we can start picking players for the next series. I think Ashwin Prince would have been a better test coach than Shukri Conrad, and I don't know what you're basing that on. I mean, Shukri Conrad has played one test series and won it. So I don't know why you say that. Shukri has also won more trophies domestically than Ashwin Prince as well. He's also coached at every single level in South Africa. I don't know if you guys know your history on Shukri Conrad. Shukri is coached at every single level in South African cricket. He's coached at under 19 level. He's coached at He's won trophies with Western Province. He's been at the Lions. He's been with the Lions B team and the A team. He's been um, he's actually Western Province's most successful coach, I think, when it comes to trophies. He was responsible for the likes of Herschel Gibbs, JP Dumini, Vernon Philander, a whole lot of players like that coming through the system. He was at the Lions, like I said already. He was SA emerging coach before. He was SA coach before. He was the under 19 coach recently. He was also head of the academy. So he's seen every single level when it comes to coaching in South Africa. Even club cricket, he's a legend. He's also a legend in South African cricket as a player. He played in the isolation period. He's played for both sides, the white side and the player and the color, the player, um, the colored side, or you could say the black side. So his experience in cricket, I think you guys are being a little bit. Um, I don't think you guys are giving him enough credit for his knowledge and his level that he has with regards to coaching and his experience. Man's knowledge in cricket is unbelievable. Every time I talk to him, I learn something new. So I don't know if you can really put those two coaches ahead against each other. Shukri is way more experienced than Ashwin Prince, and he's also won more trophies. Dale College has been good producer of a lot of black rugby players. Why not the same for cricket? Because cricket, for black cricketers, like I've said before, it's very difficult for cricketers. It's also very difficult to become great in both. I know one is a summer sport and one is a winter sport, but kind of you have to dedicate yourself to one of those sports if you really want to become professional. And at the moment, playing rugby in South Africa is a lot more feasible for players, and especially players that come from disadvantaged backgrounds. It's a lot more feasible for them to be able to make a career out of it than cricket at the moment. South African rugby team has also won trophies. We've won 3 World Cups. So they're a successful team. So when a player comes through the system, or young players are coming through the system, because you play one summer sport and one winter sport, a lot of them are looking up to players that are becoming box. So they automatically their movement will be towards rugby rather than cricket because They will think that, okay, cool, there are winners there, that we've won World Cup, these players to look up to. At the moment, there are no players necessarily to look up to besides Temba Bavuma when it comes to be like African players, and maybe KG Rabada and Lungingidi. So there's not necessarily many players to really look up to that have won World Cups and that have the status within South African sport. So when that improves, when you win a World Cup, we might see more players coming through and wanting to play cricket and giving up rugby to play cricket, perhaps, or giving up other sports to play cricket. When is SA next series schedule announced? We'll be playing India at the end of the year. That's what it's been announced. Shamran Ismail retired, fastest women's, but I already did my whole intro, bro, was about Shabnim Ismail. I read out the quotes and everything. Why do players in SA retire at the age of 32, 34? No clue. It's just got to do with the feeling. You said you're going to invite George Linder. Any update? I am in contact with him. I will check with him again. It should happen this week. At the moment, he's been moving house. So I don't know if I should be telling you guys this, but at the moment, he's been busy moving house. So he hasn't had the opportunity to maybe to come on the show at the moment because he hasn't really been at home in a place that has good Wi-Fi connection. So I will get in touch with him again tonight and try to find out what day he would like to come on the show. But I'm hoping that I'll get him on the show this week. So don't worry, guys. It will come soon. Um, Timba, Riza, Rasi, Riza have not played much in India. Indian conditions are much different as compared to South Africa. You definitely need someone who's good record there. Well, we'll have to wait and see how these players play. We can't just keep on going back to players that have experience if they've left the format. Next Dale, when we will get, or next Dale Stain in your mind. Um, I think at the moment Pete Botha is there. Pete Botha has been responsible for a lot of the talented fast bowlers in our country. He's also responsible for having a big influence on Anik Nokia. So I would like to see him give an opportunity and get a chance to actually coach his team before we start talking about replacing him already. Why only one spinner is selected in SAA squad? My understanding of it is that it's not going to spin in Sri Lanka. Based on the weather reports that I've seen, based on what I've heard from people in the space, that it might not spin as we think it will in Sri Lanka. Um, so I think that's the reason why there's only one spinner in the team, because I think Prinal Subrain was very unlucky to miss out on that SAA side. So that's my understanding of it, is that it's not going to spin as much during this period in Sri Lanka. Quinton Cock has been benched this entire IPL. Can you believe it? I can. He hasn't necessarily been in the best of form, has he? Brevis should have played IPL. Well, he's in the IPL, they're just not selecting him. You said you will invite George Linder. I've updated you already. Hardy, reason behind KG not firing in all formats? I don't know. I don't know what the reason is. I don't know if he's ever actually had a really proper time away from the game completely. Just break away absolutely completely and not play any games and not be involved in media, not be involved with cricket at all, and completely break away from the game. It's been from tournament to tournament and no rest whatsoever, barely been home as well. So I think he's suffering a bit mentally, and I think that's maybe why what's been what's been wrong with him. Need to see more Brevis and Stubbs. Any chance of how? Um, I think that in the SA tour we'll see a lot more of them, and then from there we will move. Australia tour of SA in yes. Besides that, also Australia, Australia as well. But I'm talking about Test cricket. I thought you were talking about the Test cricket schedule and not all formats. But guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to smack the like button, smash the like button, click like, comment, and share. And don't forget to download the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics magazine. Every issue is 100% free, straight to your inbox every month. Link is on the screen as well as in the description. Become a patron today by joining us today. Guys, we need your help with the Patreon account because this is really what's keeping everything afloat. This and YouTube is keeping us being able to stream every day to do the content we are doing. So please, please, if you haven't become a patron yet, we need your help. It's not a lot of money. It's literally like you buy me a coffee every month. So you don't have to, but it really every single bit counts. So please get involved with the Patreon account to help Cricket Fanatics stay alive so that we can continue with this content. Also go to cricketfanaticsmag.com for all the regular updates. Um, Thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you guys again tomorrow with another daily show. I'm going to try to talk to George and see if he can be available tomorrow or this week, and we'll see if we can get that done. But to all of you guys out there, thank you for joining in. Thank you for all your questions, and I'll see you very soon. Peace out.